It's hideous atrocity, sadistic, vicious, murderous, totally without any credible pretext. It's another one of the periodic Israeli exercises in what they delicately call mowing the lawn. That means shooting fish in the pond to make sure that the animals stay quiet in the cage that you've constructed for them, after which you go to a period of what's called ceasefire, which means that Hamas observes the ceasefire as Israel concedes, while Israel continues to violate it. Then it's broken by an Israeli escalation, Hamas reaction, then you have a period of mowing the lawn. This one is, in many ways, more sadistic and vicious, even than the earlier ones.
And what of the pretext that Israel used to launch these attacks? Could you talk about that? To what degree you feel it had any validity?
As high Israeli officials concede, Hamas had observed the previous ceasefire for 19 months. The previous episode of mowing the lawn was November 2012. There was a ceasefire. The ceasefire terms were that Hamas would not fire rockets, what they call rockets, and Israel would move to end the blockade and stop attacking what they call militants in Gaza. Hamas lived up to it. Israel concedes that. In April of this year, an event took place which horrified the Israeli government. A unity agreement was formed between Gaza and the West Bank, between Hamas and Fatah. Israel's been desperately trying to prevent that for a long time. There's a background we could talk about, but it's important. Anyhow, the unity agreement came. Israel was furious. They got even more upset when the U.S. more or less endorsed it, which is a big blow to them. They launched a rampage in the West Bank. What was used as a pretext was the brutal murder of 3 settler teenagers. There was a pretense that they were alive, though they knew they were dead. That allowed a huge, and of course they blamed it right away on Hamas. They have yet to produce a particle of evidence, and in fact their own highest leading authorities pointed out right away that the killers were probably from a kind of a rogue clan in Hebron, the Qasmi clan, which turns out apparently be true. They've been a thorn in the sides of Hamas for years. They don't follow their orders. But anyway, that gave an opportunity for a rampage in the West Bank, arresting hundreds of people, rearresting many who had been released, mostly targeted on Hamas. Killings increased. Finally, there was a Hamas response, the so-called rocket attacks, and that gave the opportunity for mowing the lawn again.
You said that Israel does this periodically, Noam Chomsky. Why do they do this periodically?
Because they want to maintain a certain situation. There's a background. For over 20 years, Israel has been dedicated, with U.S. support, to separating Gaza from the West Bank. That's in direct violation of the terms of the Oslo Accord 20 years ago, which declared that the West Bank and Gaza are a single territorial entity whose integrity must be preserved. But for rogue states, solemn agreements are just an invitation to do whatever you want. So Israel, with U.S. backing, has been committed to keeping them separate. And there's a good reason for that. Just look at the map. If Gaza is the only outlet to the outside world for any eventual Palestinian entity, whatever it might be. The West Bank, if separated from Gaza, the West Bank is essentially imprisoned. Israel on one side, the Jordanian dictatorship on the other. Furthermore, Israel is systematically driving Palestinians out of the Jordan Valley, sinking wells, building settlements. They first call them military zones, then put in settlements, the usual story. That would mean that whatever cantons are left for Palestinians in the West Bank after Israel takes what it wants and integrates it into Israel, they would be completely imprisoned. Gaza would be an outlet to the outside world. So therefore, keeping them separate from one another is a high goal of policy, U.S. and Israeli policy. And the unity agreement threatened that, threatened something else Israel has been claiming for years. One of its arguments for kind of evading negotiations is how can they negotiate with the Palestinians when they're divided? Well, okay, so if they're not divided, you lose that argument. But the more significant one is simply the geostrategic one, which is what I described. So the unity government was a real threat, along with the tepid but real endorsement of it by the United States, and they immediately reacted.